I'm Ava Morgan, 27, and on the night of my brother's wedding, I thought I was just there to fill a chair no one else wanted. My mother told me to sit behind a pillar so I wouldn't ruin the photos, and I did quiet, polite, invisible. But as the music faded and the lights dimmed, everything shifted. My brother's CEO took the stage, called my name into the microphone, and suddenly, every eye that once looked past me was staring straight ahead. That night, the family that spent years keeping me in the shadows watched me step into the spotlight, and it all started from. The ballroom shimmered like a jewel box cracked open under the chandeliers, every surface dripping in white roses, gold thread, and self-importance. Laughter rolled across the tables like expensive perfume, rich and overdone, coating everything in a glossy film of performance. My brother, Ethan, stood at the center of it all, tailored to perfection in his ivory suit, his bride gleaming like she'd been dipped in champagne. I clutched my little gift bag and tried not to wrinkle my dress as I hovered at the edge of the crowd, waiting for someone to notice I hadn't been given a seat. Mom noticed, but not in the way I'd hoped. She leaned in, her smile frozen for the photographer. "You can sit there, honey," she murmured without turning her head, nodding toward a chair half hidden behind one of the massive marble pillars that framed the ballroom. "Just don't ruin the photos, okay?" Her words landed soft, but the sting was sharp. The rest of the family pretended not to hear. My aunt adjusted her pearls. My cousin whispered something behind her hand that made her fiancé chuckle. And I, dutifully invisible, slipped behind the pillar like a shadow taking its rightful place. From there, I had the perfect view of everyone's joy and none of their warmth. Ethan raised his glass, his voice bright and sure. "To family," he said. The crowd echoed him, laughter swelling, crystal clinking in choreographed harmony. I held my water glass, not champagne. Never champagne. Mom thought it looked tacky in pictures, and let the toast wash over me. No one saw me there, half hidden, the faint reflection of their success story. They didn't see the work that had kept me awake for nights, the campaigns I'd built pixel by pixel, the presentations I'd written for Ethan's company, the one he bragged about as if he alone had lifted it from the dust. I wasn't supposed to talk about my job tonight. "Don't make it about you," Mom had said. "It's Ethan's moment." So I didn't. The speeches began, predictable, rehearsed, gilded with flattery. His college friends joked about his ambition. His boss praised his leadership. I watched from my corner, fingers tracing the ribbon on my gift bag, pretending it didn't bother me that not one of them remembered I existed outside family photos and group texts I was never tagged in. Then came the first shift. The lights dimmed, slow and deliberate, like the beginning of a theater act. A hush swept the room, the kind that demands attention. The wedding host, some polished man in a navy tux, stepped up to the microphone, grinning. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice echoing smoothly through the hall, "we have a very special guest with us tonight, someone who played a much larger role in this celebration than you might realize." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My father leaned forward. My mother adjusted her bracelet. Ethan's bride's smile flickered with curiosity. "Please," the host continued, "welcome the CEO of Halverson and Company, Mr. Matthew Hale." Applause thundered. The man himself, tall, composed, with the kind of effortless authority that makes people stand straighter without realizing, stepped up to the mic. I'd only met him once, during a virtual campaign pitch I'd designed for their rebranding project. He hadn't said much at the time, only "good work. Keep it clean. Make it last." I hadn't expected him to remember my name. But when he smiled across the ballroom, I realized he did. First of all, he began, "Congratulations to Ethan and Claire. A beautiful couple, and I can personally say this company would be lost without Ethan's drive and leadership." The guests applauded again, predictable and polite. He waited, letting the noise fade just enough before his tone shifted. "But tonight, I want to take a moment to recognize someone else." He paused. The crowd leaned in. My heart started pounding, a quiet panic with no reason yet. "Someone," he said, "who played a crucial role in making this wedding, and this year, possible for all of us." Eyes darted around the room. Whispers rose like static. Matthew Hale smiled, scanning the crowd. Then he asked, clear and certain, "Where is she?" Where's Ava Morgan? The sound of my name struck like a bell. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then, as if choreographed, every head turned toward the pillar. Toward me. I froze, the world narrowing to the weight of 100 stares. My mother's face went blank. My father's drink tilted dangerously in his hand. Ethan's expression flickered between confusion and something sharper, disbelief. I stood, legs unsteady, the chair scraping softly against the polished floor. Matthew Hale lifted the mic again, his voice calm but unmistakably proud. "This amazing woman," he said, pointing toward me, "designed the entire digital campaign that boosted our company's revenue this quarter. The same success that funded much of this wedding, without her even knowing it." Gasps. Then silence. Then applause. Real applause. I walked toward the stage, every step echoing louder than the last. The crowd parted like a tide, faces I'd known my whole life now painted with astonishment. Cameras flashed. I could feel the heat of it on my skin, not shame this time, but something dangerously close to vindication. Matthew met me halfway and offered his hand. "You've done extraordinary work, Ava," he said, his tone warm but deliberate. "You're the quiet genius behind our biggest success. It's about time people saw that." My brother's voice cut through the clapping, low and incredulous. "You?" I turned toward him, smiling just enough to meet his disbelief head-on. "Guess the view's better from behind the pillar," I said softly. Laughter rippled through the hall, not cruel, but surprised, uncertain. The kind that comes when a script flips too fast for anyone to catch up. Matthew gestured toward the screen behind us. The ballroom lights dimmed again, and the company's highlight reel began to play, every graphic, every color choice, every tagline I'd crafted in sleepless silence. My work filled the massive screen, glowing above them all. My name appeared in the closing credits, white against black, lead designer Ava Morgan. My mother's hand went to her mouth. My father set down his glass, slowly, as if afraid it might shatter. Ethan looked pale, his new wife whispering something he didn't hear. The applause still echoed in my ears when the music started again, louder than before, desperate to patch over the tension that had cracked open the room. People were smiling, clapping, pretending to go back to normal, but their eyes told a different story. Every glance was another question no one wanted to ask out loud. I stepped down from the stage, feeling every camera flash chase me like heat. My family sat frozen. My mother's hand still rested on her chest. My father stared at his empty glass like it might explain what just happened. Ethan's smile looked rehearsed, and his bride's hand on his arm was a grip, not a gesture. I walked past them and sat back at my lonely table behind the pillar, but it didn't feel lonely anymore. Every face turned toward me, every whisper twisting through the air like static. My phone buzzed. A message from my team. "He actually did it. Hale shouted you out. About time." Another came from my coworker, Jenna. "You just became office legend." Ethan's laughter suddenly cut through the noise, too loud, too forced. He stood, raised his glass, and said, "Well, that was unexpected." The guests laughed, uncertain whether to join in. "Guess my little sister's been busier than we thought." He meant it as a joke, but it landed wrong. His tone didn't sound proud, it sounded cornered. I didn't reply. I just smiled faintly, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. The rest of the night dragged like a badly edited movie. Every toast, every photo, every song, all slightly off. The perfect wedding veneer had cracked, and the people behind it didn't know how to act anymore. When dinner was served, I finally had a place at the table, but it was out of pity, not invitation. Mom leaned toward me, whispering through a stiff smile. "You could have told us you were working with Ethan's company." That announcement caught everyone off guard. "I wasn't allowed to," I said quietly. "Contract confidentiality." She nodded, but didn't meet my eyes. "Still, you might have warned us." "Your brother didn't look prepared." I almost laughed. Neither was I. Dad stayed silent, though I could see the tension in his jaw. He'd always sided with Ethan, the firstborn, the golden one. But tonight, he didn't know what to say. His pride and confusion were fighting, and pride was losing. When dessert came out, Matthew Hale stopped by my table. The room seemed to hold its breath again. He placed a hand on my chair and said, "Ava, if you're not too busy next week, I'd like to discuss a new project. Something with your name on it this time." I stood and shook his hand. "I'll make time." His smile was brief but certain. "Good. Expect my call." He left, and the whispering started again, louder than before. Claire, my new sister-in-law, leaned toward Ethan and whispered something that made his expression harden. His knuckles tightened around his glass. By the time the night ended, I knew one thing: my family wasn't celebrating me. They were recalculating. Outside the hotel, the air was cool, sharp against the leftover heat of the ballroom. I waited for my rideshare near the marble steps, the sound of laughter spilling from the lobby behind me. Ethan came out, his tie loosened, face tight. "You really couldn't let me have one night, could you?" he said, his voice low but sharp. I turned toward him. "You think I planned that? You could have stopped it. You didn't have to walk up there." "Matthew Hale called my name in front of 200 people," I said evenly. "What was I supposed to do? Hide behind the pillar again?" His jaw clenched. "You made me look like a fool in front of my own CEO." "He made you look like that," I said. "I didn't do anything except my job." He scoffed, looking away. "You've always had this thing about needing attention. You act quiet, but you love the moment people notice you." I almost laughed at that. If I loved attention, I wouldn't have survived in this family. He stepped closer, his tone darker. "Stay out of my work, Ava. Whatever project he's planning, it's mine." I held his gaze. "You might want to tell him that." The driver pulled up. I got in without another word. As the car pulled away, I watched him in the side mirror, standing under the streetlight, the perfect groom with his perfect night cracking around him. When I got home, I kicked off my shoes and dropped the gift bag on the counter. The apartment was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the distant echo of a night that had gone off script. My phone lit up again, this time with an unknown number. "It's Hale." I meant what I said. "Let's meet Monday. Confidential." I stared at the message for a long second. I typed back one word: "Yes." The following Monday, his office smelled like polished wood and power. Hale greeted me with that same calm confidence. He didn't waste time with small talk. "You've done more for this company than most people with executive titles," he said. "I'm restructuring the marketing team, and I want you to lead the next campaign. You'll report directly to me." I blinked. "That's a senior position." Ethan doesn't handle creative anymore," he interrupted. "This isn't about him." There it was, the shift. The beginning of a power realignment that no one at that wedding had seen coming. I left his office that day with a new badge and a title that changed everything. The same people who ignored my emails were now copying me on every thread. Invitations to meetings I'd been excluded from started appearing in my calendar. It felt good, not out of spite, but clarity. At dinner that weekend, Mom brought it up. "Your brother says you're working directly under his CEO now." "Yes," I said. "He promoted me." She tried to smile. "You'll need to be careful. People might think you're stepping on toes." "I'm not stepping on anyone's toes," I said. "I'm just finally standing." Dad nodded slowly. "Good for you, Ava." It was the first time he'd said those words to me in years. Ethan didn't look up from his plate. 3 months passed since the wedding, but the echo of that night never faded. The company had changed, and so had I. My name was now printed on every major project, my ideas pitched directly to the CEO, my results measured in numbers even the board couldn't ignore. Success wasn't a dream anymore, it was visible, and it had weight. Ethan, though, wasn't handling it well. I saw the shift in every meeting we shared. His charm had thinned, replaced by an edge that cut through polite conversation. He avoided me in the office halls, except when he couldn't. When he did, his words came coated in false brotherly warmth that fooled no one. "You're making quite a name for yourself," he'd say, smiling too wide. "Hope you're ready for the attention that comes with it." It wasn't a compliment, it was a warning. Still, I kept my focus where it belonged. Hale had trusted me with leading the company's largest digital expansion, a campaign set to redefine their entire brand. It was my work that would decide the next quarter's future. Ethan had been assigned to operations far from the spotlight. That wasn't my doing. It was his CEO's choice. But for Ethan, that distinction didn't matter. He saw my success as theft. The tension snapped 2 weeks before launch. Hale had called a meeting to finalize the rollout. The conference room was filled with the company's senior team. I presented the last metrics, confident and calm. When I finished, Hale nodded approvingly. "This is solid work," he said. "If these numbers hold, we'll exceed projections." "Well done, Ava." Applause followed. I thanked him and began gathering my files, but before I could leave, Ethan spoke. "I need to bring something up," he said suddenly. "It's about Ava's project." Every head turned. "There's an issue with her data," he continued. "Some of the analytics she presented don't match the system records. It looks off." A cold hush fell over the room. Hale's expression shifted. "What kind of issue?" Ethan handed over printed reports. "I ran a review this morning. The engagement figures have been inflated. Possibly a system error. Possibly not." The implication was clear. My chest tightened. "That's not true," I said firmly. "My reports are verified." "You know that." Hale scanned the pages, his tone unreadable. "I'll have IT verify it. For now, we'll pause the rollout until the data's confirmed." The meeting dissolved. I walked out without looking at Ethan. He didn't follow, but I could feel his satisfaction behind me, quiet, poisonous. That night, I stayed in the office long after everyone left. I combed through every file, every chart, every report I'd built from the start. Nothing was wrong. Then I found it, a data export timestamped after I'd locked the report, slightly altered engagement numbers, just enough to cast doubt. Only someone with access could have done it. Ethan. I didn't confront him right away. I documented everything, server logs, version histories, access times, and sent them directly to Hale. No emotion, no defense. Just facts. Then I waited. The next morning, I was called to the boardroom again. Ethan was already there, seated stiffly beside Hale. His face had lost its confidence. Hale looked up as I entered. "We reviewed the system. The alterations didn't come from your account." Ethan's jaw tightened. Hale continued, his tone controlled but cold. "They came from his." A silence stretched. Ethan opened his mouth, searching for a lie, but nothing came. Hale leaned back. "You've been with this company 5 years. You had potential. But sabotaging another employee's work, and your own sister's, no less, is something I won't ignore." Ethan's voice cracked. "It was a mistake. I was trying to." "To what?" Hale cut him off. "Protect your ego?" He turned to me. "Your project moves forward as planned. Congratulations." Then to Ethan, "You're dismissed. Effective immediately." There it was, clean, final. The end he'd written for himself. Ethan stood slowly, his face pale. His eyes met mine for a moment, burning with a mix of anger and shame. Then he walked out without a word. After he left, Hale's expression softened. "Family can be complicated," he said quietly. "But you handled this with integrity." I nodded, though my chest felt heavy. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like closure, sharp and necessary. The campaign launched that afternoon. The results were staggering. The company's numbers broke every record, and my name was tied to all of it. The board congratulated me personally. Hale announced my promotion at the quarterly meeting, Director of Creative Strategy. My parents called that night. Mom's tone was cautious, almost gentle. "We heard what happened at the company. Are you all right?" "I'm fine," I said. "It's been a long week." Dad cleared his throat. "Ethan's been distant. He said he's taking time off to figure things out." "I hope he does," I said. Mom hesitated. "We're proud of you, Ava. We just wish things hadn't turned out like this." "Me too," I replied. "But some things have to end before others can start." The call ended quietly. I sat in the dark for a while, letting the stillness settle. The same girl who once hid behind a pillar had stood in a boardroom and faced down everything that once silenced her. A week later, Hale invited me to dinner, a company celebration. The restaurant buzzed with chatter, the kind of polished excitement reserved for people who know they've made it. Hale raised his glass toward me. "To the person who reminded us that real success doesn't need a spotlight, it earns one." The table applauded. I smiled, the sound washing over me like the ending of a film you don't need to rewind to understand. When I left the restaurant that night, the city lights stretched endlessly. I walked without hurry, heels clicking softly against the pavement. For the first time, there was no shadow at my back, only space. The pillar, the whispers, the years of being unseen, they were gone. I didn't need anyone to see me anymore. They already had. And that was enough.